Hey everyone, Taylor here. Welcome to the Bonfire Briefing Podcast. My guest today is UFC Welterweight prospect and former CXF 160-pound champion Gifted Gabe Green. He's coming off an awesome TKO victory over Yohan Lainesse last month. If you haven't watched that fight, do yourself a favor and do so. The whole second round is crazy. Gabe broke down that fight for me in detail, talking about what was going through his head after getting dropped in the second round, things he thought he did well, and things he thought he could have done better. We also talked about how he got his start in MMA, his journey to the UFC, and some of the fights from this past weekend, including the controversial Holly Holm versus Ketlin Vieira decision. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, we're good. Gifted Gabe Green, welcome to the show.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man. I really do appreciate it. You had a hell of a win over Yohan Lainesse just about a month ago or so. It was crazy, especially that second round. And, I want to talk about that, but just talk to me a little about how you're feeling about that win, a little over a month removed. I mean, how good does it feel?
Man, time is flying by. It's been a month already. I'm happy I won. I'm happy I was able to finish it of my own accord. The judges are not the brightest people in the world sometimes, and people get robbed more often than not. So,
Right.
it always feels good to just finish it. And then, when you're when you're standing there, waiting to get your hand raised, when you just, knock them out, or you just put them to sleep, or you just snap something, you already know you won. So it's a little less nerve wracking because, when you're standing there without knowing, it's not fun, man. It's not the business. A lot of my prior fights were not decisions. They're all finishes. So it felt good to get back to that. It wasn't as clean as I wanted it to be. So definitely got some things to work on still.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of there's a lot of fighters that fought last night that feel the same way about the judges that you do, and maybe we'll touch on that a little later too. But I'm also curious to know what your prep for that fight was like, how training was like. How did you and your team prepare for Lainesse? What were you looking at in his game that you saw that you could take advantage of, and what, if anything, surprised you about stepping in there with him?
There wasn't much we trained specifically for him. I, especially after my eye surgery, I see things a lot better. I'm better judge of just spatial. I have better spatial awareness and stuff like that. And my movements has always been pretty good when I just use my movement like I'm supposed to, instead of just standing in front of people and banging. So it was more so just like, all right, like, do what you can do, all right, and don't worry about getting into a slugfest, even though you think it's super fun, So
Right.
that's just where it was more so that it's because we were just, he looked like he hit hard, and I felt it. He did hit really hard, So it was more so my coach just going like, just don't even, don't worry about standing toe to toe with this guy, at least not at first, like let him get a little tired first, and then go all out.
Right. Now that eye issue that you had, was that something that you've always dealt with? Was it an injury you picked up in a fight? What
No, yeah, it was just my eyes just deteriorated. At first I saw, I've always needed glasses, but I was getting away with it. It's just through the years they got like worse and worse and worse and worse. Like in 2018, my last fight before I had an injury layoff for 2 years, they were working, pretty solid. But by the time I started training back again, like 2 years later, dude, they deteriorated. I don't know if it's because I wasn't really using them or what, but yeah, it's like I couldn't tell where I was on the mat sometimes, man. And then I fought D-Rod and Roe with them like that. And then I was like, no, I got a little chunk of change, so let me fix these bad boys. And I had a PRK on them. So now I got 20/20 vision. So that's cool.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, well, glad you got that fixed. Go into the the second round of that fight. He dropped you with a big right hand like 10 seconds into the round, but of course you rallied back in that same round and got the TKO. I'm wondering what was going through your mind after that knockdown.
So I mean, just going into the second round in general, I was starting to pick things up a little bit more in the first round to find my flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, going into the corner, my coach was like, all right, I was already walking back in there. Like, I mean, it was a close first round, but I still gave it to Yohan. I'm down one. And my coach was like, don't worry about it. You did what we needed you to do. You moved around. You didn't let him hit you, too much. Punched himself out. So go in there and open it up a little bit, a little bit more to start. But and he's like, and then when you see it, go for it. And I was like, all right. So the problem was I saw him kind of like deteriorating already. And I was like, all right, I think it's time to turn it on. And instead of being like flowy, I was like, I'm gonna hit him with this 1-2. And I stepped to the left with the one, but I didn't pop it like I'm supposed to. I just like touched him with it. And when you just touch someone, I literally I just kind of threw a super lazy jab when I was stepping to his right. That's against the power puncher. That's never a smart thing. So I mean, I actually touch him on the chin right before he touches me. It's just that it was like a tsunami. He just kind of ate my punch because I didn't put a lot of it on it. I was just using it more so to hide my step, so that when I set up my right hand, I had like a really lined up shot. I just never got to throw the right hand because he just ate my jab, threw it right over the top. So I mean, it was just like a lapse of technique for me. I should have put a little more spunk on that if I'm gonna step into his right and I'm throwing it left. But then I rolled it a little bit because I saw that it was coming over the top, and so that took a little power off of it, but at the same time, it gave him a better angle of like the back of my head.
Right.
So it hit me like right, not on the back of the head, but like right behind the ear. So I guess I rolled with it. So I boom, rolled, hit the floor. It took my equilibrium off for a second, but I mean, I knew I had my wits about me, right when I was like, it was just like a split second. When I looked at him, I knew where he was exactly, and then he threw a punch, blocked it a little bit, and then grabbed his leg and messed it up. Yeah, it was just, especially with the fact that I was stepping. That's why it made it look a little bit more dramatic because my foot wasn't under me when I lost my equilibrium because I was stepping to his right, my left.
Right.
But he caught. People get caught. He caught me. I zigged when I should have zagged, and boom. But then grabbed his leg, got back up, and then even then I was like, oh man, it is a wrap. I was like, I'm gonna knock this dude out. And then he shoots on me, I sprawl, and then I was like, oh, there it is, finish line. I'm gonna take his back and choke him out. And then I did that with improper technique again. So freaking 2 bad decisions by me in a row. And because I didn't think he had honestly didn't think he had at that level of him being tired that he was gonna be able to throw his arm up like that and just stop me from going to his back. So I didn't even worry about blocking it. But sure enough, boom, I go to the side and he picks, he blocks me. I mean, that was really good technique by him when he was gassed, man. And then, then we ended up a little bit scramble, stood back up, and I was like, oh, okay. Now it's really over. And then I finished him.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's how a lot of people felt whenever you got up that time. I mean, it was pretty, you could see him gassing out. He thought he had you. He used all that energy to try to finish you, and it really took a toll on him, man. And your body work later in that round was fucking nasty. It was
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was
and
vicious, dude.
it started with it was two teeps and then a flying knee to the stomach before I even started the punches. And that's when I like, because I saw him take a deep breath, so I teeped him, and then he backed off. He circled like away, or he tried to throw at me. I moved out of the way, and I teeped him again with my other foot, and then he circled hard back the other way to my right, and then I threw the flying knee to his stomach. And then when we got off the walls, when he took a giant breath, because that knee to the belly like landed pretty solid. I felt like like we're on the fence, and like the whole fence like shaked because I like penetrated all the way through him into the cage. And then yeah, he takes a giant breath, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Body, 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 body. I was really gonna go for the face, but he was covering up his face. I was just like, all right, I'll just keep on hitting you, keep on hitting you in the body because you're not blocking it, man.
Yeah, yeah, and you knew with like when you dropped him with that hook to the body that was it. Like when he crumbled after all that body work, you knew you had it done, that you sealed the deal.
Yeah, because he wasn't doing like anything on the floor. Like there was no he was just like basically in the fetal, like he was just covered up and like balling up so I didn't hurt him. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, all I gotta do is just keep on hitting him a little bit and the ref's just gonna stop it. And then you can kind of tell in the video, like I mean, after making a couple dumb mistakes in the fight, I was like, let me be smart. So I was like framing on his hip, making sure that I didn't get up kicked, because I mean that's still a possibility. So
Right.
I was keeping him on his hip and not on his back so that he couldn't do anything jujitsu-y or throw an up kick, So did something smart right there. Framed his hip, kept his legs pinned against the floor. And then I was just doing the one hammer fist. And then I felt Dean to come up to me, and like he like really got in my peripheral, and then like he like bucked me a little bit, and I was like, oh, it's over. But then I stopped for a second, and then he was like, you got to protect yourself, you got to do something. I was like, oh, it's not over yet, hold on. And that's when I switched to the Hulk smash double hammer fist, and then it was over.
Yeah, it was a hell of a win, man. I was on the edge of my seat the entire second round. I mean, it was crazy. Congratulations to you on such a great comeback win there. I want to transition a little bit, talk about, I think every fighter has kind of a different story as to how they got into MMA, and everybody's journey to the top is different. I want to hear from you. How did you get into MMA, when you were younger? And can you talk a little bit about your journey to the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't I was always interested in any kind of martial art. I was always drawn to it. I wanted to do boxing, taekwondo, something, karate, but my mom and dad were not down. They put my older brother in karate when he was like 4 or 5, and then he's 4 years older than me. He's probably like 5 or 6. He's 4 years older than me. And then he like came home and was like practicing moves on me, and he was hitting me. So they were like, no, you can't be hitting your little brother when he's that little. You're out of here. So they stopped. They like took martial arts out of like, he ruined it for me basically. So I had to wait till, I mean, then I was always like hitting. My dad at the very least put a punching bag in the backyard, and my godfather used to box him a little bit and stuff like that. So growing up, I mean, they just like showed me some stuff on the bag, but it was like nothing crazy. And he always had like a punching bag in the backyard, so I would take advantage of that, and I would just hit the bag and watch Ali videos and Tyson videos and stuff like that. And then but yeah, I didn't actually start training till I was in college. I was going to college. I had a job, and I could pay for my own training, and I was over 18, so I could sign the waiver myself. And one of my friends from high school hit me up and was like, hey, I started training at this gym, you want to come try it out? I was like, yeah, bet, like let's go. And as soon as I walked in there, man, it was a wrap. I I loved it off my first day, and think I did a jiu-jitsu tournament. I did a jiu-jitsu tournament like a month after training, and I got gold. And I was like, oh man, this stuff's pretty dope. And then my coach was like, you want to try an actual fight? And a month after that, I had my first actual amateur fight.
Wow.
Won that one. Yeah, I won that one. And then after that, I think I had six amateur fights in my first like 14 months or 16 months of training. And then I just went pro right after that because it was hard to find an amateur that wanted to fight me in California. So yeah, went pro and then did a couple shows, lost twice in a row. Was like, man, this shit sucks, man. Losing is terrible. Because I was undefeated as an amateur, and then yeah, won three as a pro. So I kind of got used to winning, and then
Right.
lost two in a row. And I was like, whoa. This is not supposed to happen. And then I went on a little spree, won another six in a row. The last one, all finishes. The last one being another guy who was like a top press prospect for the UFC. And I knocked him out in the second round. And then actually the UFC calls me. That's in 2018. The UFC calls me right after that. And offers me Gilbert Burns to be like a last minute replacement
Oh,
in
wow.
2018 when he was a 55er because I used to fight at 55. And I couldn't do it because I had like shoulder surgery and hand surgery after fighting that one guy that I knocked out. So I was like, no, man, it sucks. I can't go. Sorry. Like hit me back later. But it was like a really long process for that. I didn't train again for like 2 years with all the rehab and everything. And then come 2020 when everything shut down, I get finally okay to be like training and stuff. And the gyms are shut down, so I'm just going for runs and stuff. And then hadn't trained like I think I got like maybe like a few weeks of real training before COVID like shut down. So like I probably had like 4 weeks of training in the 2 years since my last fight when I finally got to fight D-Rod. And that was like 4 weeks, but then another like 3 months off or 2 months off, whatever COVID happened. And then yeah, because everything shut down in March and then I fought him in May. So yeah, I had like 4 weeks of training and then another like 3 months off. And
Mhm.
then I fought D-Rod on the short 4 days notice, 2 years off the couch. Lost
Golly.
that one and I was like, man, this whole losing stuff does suck. Let's not do that anymore. And yeah, been on 2 fight win streak since. So I'm gonna keep that going.
Yeah, yeah, and you've looked really good in those past two wins. Did you know, like, you're winning that fight in 2018, and then having to turn down the fight with Burns, having all the surgeries and everything. Did you? I mean that had to be kind of disappointing. I'm sure you wanted to, jump in there and fight Burns, but you just couldn't. But did you always know that you would end up in the UFC? You were confident that you would, even with the time off and the surgeries, that you would be in the UFC.
It's definitely where I wanted to go. I after my first amateur fight, I was like, man, no, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything else. Um, I was honestly expecting that I was gonna have to go on like a 2 or 3 fight win streak, and at least at least win one fight to prove that I'm not rusty or something, to prove that I still got the skills to compete with UFC caliber fighters. I was really expecting that. So when they called me and they were like, "Are you ready to go? Like, we're looking for a replacement." I was like, like I haven't trained in forever, but yeah, let's go. My body was working at least. As long as my body's working, I felt confident. So I was like,
Right.
let's go. I wasn't gonna let anything 'Cause, like that's a call that you don't turn down, And
Right.
unfortunately, I had to, because my coach hit me up the day after my shoulder surgery, and he was like, "I got good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear?"
Mm.
And after, I was like, let's do good news is let's do the good news." And he was like, "Well, the UFC is hitting me up about you." After, I was like, "Oh man, that's cool." And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What's the bad news?" He's like, "Well, they actually wanted you to fight like next month and against Gilbert Burns." I was like, "Well, that sucks." So I was like, "Man, hopefully they're still interested in me whenever I get back to training." And yeah, man, I guess I was still on the radar. My coach did a good job of like almost being like annoying with Sean Shelby, probably, of just like, oh, Gabe's like okay to do this now, like keeping him up to date with my PT and all that stuff. Gabe can do this now, Gabe can do this now, Gabe can do this now.
Right.
So I mean, he was definitely a friendly reminder that I still existed.
Yeah, no, and it's, definitely good that they hit you back up, considering the success you've had since being in the UFC. I know you had a couple of fights with CXF at like 160, 165. You won the 160-pound title there. I'm curious. You fought at lightweight, welterweight. Is welterweight the weight that you feel best at? And fans have talked, about maybe restructuring the weight classes and, getting a 165-pound division in there. Is that something that you would be interested in seeing the UFC do?
Oh yeah, I would. I think that 150, I'm like an in-betweener for sure. I know, like, the people talk about like that whole like in-betweener thing, and I'm as in between as they come. 55 is like I can make it, but it sucks. Like, it sucks bad. And 70 is like a breeze, like super easy. So yeah, for 65 or 63 or even 60, because it's usually the last 5 pounds of 55 that kill me.
Right.
If those were a thing, man, that'd be that'd be my weight class for sure. Um, but we broke it down and did the math, and I was like, all right, I'm this percent body fat when I'm walking around at this weight. Um, does it make sense for me to lose muscle, stay the same amount of body fat, and go to 55, or put on muscle, stay at this percent body fat, and like continue to compete at 170? And my coach was like, "Yeah, I kind of like my coach prefers me at 155."
Mm.
Or at least he did. But after I fought D-Rod and I proved that, especially D-Rod, he was knocking people out and stuff like that. And I was like, I mean, he didn't feel super strong when I was going against him. Yeah, and I was taking his best shots. And I was able to hurt him too, like
Right.
I had him on his back foot and I was chasing him. So once that fight happened, I was like, man, that's a 170 that was that's been doing good, man. I think I'm a 170 more so than a 55. And I think that was like the big eye opener. And then, like I do that a row, and then now I do this to Yohan. I'm like not opposed to going down to 55 if the matchup's right, or because I mean I walk around in like 185. I'm not even huge, and most 55ers, at least like in the top 10, cut from 185. So I'm definitely not like by any means a huge 170 pounder. I'm definitely more so like the size of a 55er. So I mean, we'll see. But for right now, uh, unless it gets to the point that I just like can't beat some 170s because they're just too big, I'm gonna stay at 170 because it's where I feel good.
Right. That makes sense. And I thought you looked pretty I thought you looked pretty good sized at 170, especially in the fight with Yohan. You looked pretty big. What did you weigh there in the cage against him?
85.
85. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't put on any weight after we weighed in. But I mean, it's a more, because I did the same thing when I fought Roe, but I'm like significantly bigger. And I didn't strength train so much. But I started strength training, got on a good program. And yeah, I mean, it's dramatically stronger and bigger, just packing on more muscle at the same exact weight. So it's pretty gangster. It feels good. I'm gonna try to do that even more so, or even maybe get up to like 190, but stay the same amount of leanness. Just add a couple more pounds because that weight cut's too easy.
Right. Yeah. Well, I want to transition here a little. Did you catch any of the fights last night by chance?
Just the whole Holly Holmes one. But my boy actually fought where I was in Vegas. My boy fought for Tough Enough on Friday against Sasha something. He used to be in the UFC. And I'm saying my boy won that fight, but the judges gave it to the UFC vet instead. And it's just like,
Man.
Yeah, that's why that whole decision thing, man, it's like you just can't go there. I think like my boy was winning, like every like grappling exchange was extremely one-sided, picking him up, slamming him, takedowns, mat returns, and then landing like combos on the feet, and still they just gave it to the other guy. And I was just like, wow, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people watching the event last night had the same reaction to some of those split decisions that happened in the main card there, especially the main event. I think everyone was kind of blown away to not see Holly Holm come away with the victory there. It was
I saw the stats after. She like had double the amount of significant strikes, and I think she had 10 minutes of control.
Yeah, a little over 10 minutes.
And then the other chick had like a minute or less than a minute, like a couple seconds. And so even that, she had like double the amount of significant strikes, like more than 10 times the amount of control for position, like in grappling exchanges, and still loses. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's not a new problem. Like fans, fighters, Dana, have been complaining about bad judging for a long time. Is there an answer to that problem that you see? I know I've seen some people talk about like open scoring. Do you think that open scoring would help that issue, or is there something else that they could do?
I mean, I think that bad judges are going to be bad judges. The root of the bad judges problem is the fact that some judges shouldn't be judging, So I mean, the state might have to do a better job of picking people, and allowing them to do that job, or making some retire who are just getting them, completely wrong. Because I mean, that's people's future, like that for my friend, that win would have been, huge. That's like making the UFC be like, oh yeah, like this is, you beat a UFC vet, and he's a 155er, and he did it at 172. So he went up in weight class to fight a UFC vet and put on a great show, and then lost the split D that he shouldn't have lost. So I mean, that's a huge win for him, and they just, three people took that. Well, actually, it was one person because it was split D. Took it away from him. That sucks. But I mean, that open scoring, I think is something great because you'll know where you're at all times on the cards. And
right.
I know the argument against it is like, oh no, some people are gonna coast. Like they're not going to want to put anything on the line when they know they're up. But I mean, vice versa. That means the other guy is going to be going all out, like,
right.
So you can't just be like trying to coast when some guy's trying to kill you because he thinks he's down, the fight's going to happen regardless. I don't like that argument whatsoever. But I mean, yeah, I mean, combat sports in general are the only sports that you don't know the score actively. You know, like in football, you know if you're down and at the end of the quarter, you know, like you know what the points are the whole time. Soccer, baseball,
Right.
you know if you're winning or losing. It sucks that you could be going to the whole thing and not know where you stand. You know, you should. I mean, and that's what you should pick good corners so they can tell you, you know, like, hey, you know, you're down around or it should be 1-1 right now. But I mean, at the end of the day, then you can't be going into like for the fight that just happened, I was like, going into the third, I was like, it might, if anything, I was like, one was close. I think you edged it out, but it might be 1-1 going into the second. Because he did like an extremely dominant second round, an extremely dominant third round. One was the only one where it was like a little back and forth. I still think he edged it out. It should have been 3-3 rounds to nothing, but no, yeah, the judges had it all upside down. So I mean, yeah, your corner is supposed to be telling you, like, you know, go out there and finish this guy because it's not close. I mean, it's too close. And I mean, I told him to go out and try it. He wasn't able to finish him, but he still was like, you know, putting on a wrestling clinic.
Right.
You know, like even hit that, like picked him up over his shoulder, walk him to the other side of the cage thing, and like because it was like that easy, and still, yeah, didn't give it to him, man. It sucks.
Yeah, some judges, whenever you know grappling enters the equation, they have no idea what they're looking at, you know. And I you know I feel the same way that you do, and I mean that's a good point. You know, every other sport, you know the score, it's right up there on the board for everybody to see, you know.
Yep.
And we play this game where we hide the scores from the fighters, from the fans, you know, until the very end. And yeah, I mean, you know, fans are upset about it, and I feel like it's not fair, you know, to the fighters. They definitely should be able to know where the judges think they're at. And we're running out of time here. We got to wrap up. You know, hell of a win that you had, you know, about a month ago or so. Do you know what's in the cards for you? What's in the future for you? Do you have any names in mind? How many times, you know, do you want to fight this year? What's going through your head moving forward?
I mean, no names in mind in particular. Just like I mentioned it before to other people, I definitely want to run that D-Rod one back. If not next, you know, eventually. The longer he stays inactive and the more active I am, the better, you know, chances of getting that. So
Right.
besides D-Rod, man, I'm not just give me somebody. Hopefully to get something in July or August and then able to get another one in October or November so I could get two more this year that are like, you know, with little space in between that I have time to grow a little bit still, so I'm better every fight. But yeah, no one in particular, but hopefully two more, man. I want to be a little bit more active than I got to in the last couple of years.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. Just before we go here, any sponsors, anybody that you want to shout out, just real quick?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Sub Fighter, shout out to Body Shop, shout out to Rising Suns Muay Thai, shout out to Raw Talent, shout out to the Elite Smith, shout out to My Biomechanics, shout out to that's CMMA, shout out to CryoSpot OC, shout out to Smoking Fire, shout out to SP Hats, shout out to Jaywalkers Apparel. I think I got everybody. Shout out to my mama.
There we go. Man,
shout out to Jesus. Gotta go give Jesus that shout out too.
There we go. Now we've got everybody in there. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Anytime you want to come back, just hit me up and we'll run it back. But really enjoyed talking to you. Really glad to have you on the show.
Oh man, yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for having me.
All right, take it easy, man.
All right, man. Later.
That was my conversation with UFC welterweight prospect Gifted Gabe Green. I really loved talking to him. The way he broke down his comeback win over Yohan Lainesse was great. He went through every moment of that second round, from when he got dropped in the first 10 seconds to those final seconds where he was just raining down ground and pound and got the TKO victory. Like I said earlier, if you haven't watched that fight yet, do yourself a favor and watch it. The body shots he was landing on a gassed out Yohan Lainesse were fucking nasty. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Next week I'm talking to another UFC welterweight prospect, Preston Parsons. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Bonfire Brief Pod so you don't miss it. Thanks for listening.